Every time life knocks a Sigma male down, something changes, not on the surface, but deep inside. Most people break after failure. Sigma males rebuild. Every setback becomes a silent transformation, not fueled by revenge, but by realization. They don't fall apart, they fall inward, into focus, into solitude, into strength that no one can take from them. When a Sigma male loses something, a dream, a friend, an illusion, he doesn't chase what's gone. He studies the lesson it left behind. He understands that loss isn't punishment, it's calibration. Each disappointment refines his vision, sharpens his instincts, and strips away what was never real to begin with. And that's why, after every fall, he comes back harder to read, harder to reach, and impossible to break. He doesn't talk about the process. He disappears, works in silence, and reemerges with a calm that unnerves everyone who once doubted him. Because while most people chase recovery, the Sigma builds rebirth. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to UltraWise, where we uncover the psychology, mindset, and transformation behind the world's rarest personalities. And if you're still here, comment "built through loss" below. So I'll know you're one of the few who understands that every ending is just the beginning of a stronger version of you. They use pain as data. Every loss teaches them how the world really works. Pain doesn't break them, it educates them. Every time a Sigma male loses, he doesn't drown in emotion, he studies it. Where others see failure, he sees feedback. Pain becomes a teacher that never lies, showing him what's real, what's fake, and what needs to change. Most people run from discomfort. The Sigma studies it like a scientist examining fire, close enough to understand it, but never foolish enough to get burned again. When something goes wrong, a betrayal, a downfall, a plan that collapses, he doesn't spiral. He rewinds the moment in his mind, frame by frame, until he finds the truth. What did he ignore? Who did he trust too quickly? What lesson hid behind the loss? That analysis isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's how he transforms pain into strategy. Every mistake becomes a piece of data, refining how he moves through the world. And that's why he evolves faster than others, while most people repeat the same emotional loops, chasing comfort, repeating patterns, fearing change. The Sigma rewires himself with every failure. He knows the universe doesn't reward perfection, it rewards awareness. Each scar becomes a coded message. Don't react, understand. Don't regret, adapt. This mindset is what makes him unpredictable. You can't defeat someone who learns faster than life can hurt them. Every time he's knocked down, he returns with sharper instincts, better filters, and a quieter kind of confidence. He doesn't announce his growth, he embodies it. People who once underestimated him start to notice the shift. The softness fades, the distractions disappear. What remains is a man who no longer seeks validation from outcomes, only lessons. Pain once felt like punishment, but now it's precision. It cuts away weakness, illusions, and emotional noise until all that's left is truth. And when you start seeing pain as information, not injury, the world can no longer control you. That's the Sigma's secret. Every loss gives him a clearer map of reality. The more he suffers, the more he sees. And that's why he grows stronger while others crumble. Because pain doesn't define him, it trains him. They stop chasing validation and start mastering self-discipline. At some point, a Sigma male realizes chasing validation is just another form of weakness. Approval from others is temporary. Control over himself is permanent. That's the shift. He stops asking, "Do they see my worth?" and starts asking, "Am I living by my own standards?" Once that switch flips, everything changes. His focus moves from how he's seen to what he's building when no one's watching. Validation used to drive him, the praise, the recognition, the silent competition. But after enough disappointment, he learns the truth. External validation is addictive but empty. It feeds the ego and starves the soul. So he walks away from applause and replaces it with accountability. Discipline becomes his new approval. Waking up early, staying consistent, saying no when it matters. These quiet victories build a foundation stronger than anyone's opinion ever could. Self-discipline turns him into a force of nature. While others chase momentum through motivation, he creates momentum through control. He doesn't wait to feel ready. He acts, refines, and adapts, emotionless in execution. And that consistency gives him what validation never could: freedom. Freedom from needing to be seen. Freedom from caring who's watching. Freedom from the highs and lows of other people's attention. The transformation isn't loud. It's internal. He begins to notice how peaceful it feels not to seek approval. He doesn't post to impress, speak to prove, or show results for recognition. His life becomes his own. Quiet, precise, focused. Every hour of discipline becomes armor against doubt. Every sacrifice becomes a step toward mastery. And people sense it. They can't explain it, but they feel the shift. His confidence stops coming from affirmation. It radiates from his control. That calm certainty makes him magnetic. Not because he's chasing admiration, but because he's detached from it. This is where real strength lives. Not in being liked, but in being consistent. Not in validation, but in vision. The Sigma male doesn't need approval to move. He moves because it's who he is. And once a man stops chasing attention and starts mastering himself, he becomes unstoppable, disciplined, independent, and completely untouchable. They let silence rebuild what chaos tried to destroy. When life collapses, most people panic. They run to distractions, to noise, to anyone who can fill the emptiness. But not the Sigma male. He disappears. He doesn't announce his pain, doesn't seek comfort, doesn't explain. He withdraws into silence. Not to escape, but to rebuild. That quiet becomes his sanctuary. Because he knows what chaos destroys externally, silence rebuilds internally. In that stillness, he processes everything the world is too loud to understand. The betrayal, the failure, the loss. Every wound becomes a whisper that teaches him something he couldn't hear before. Silence gives him clarity. It slows the storm in his mind until patterns emerge, where he went wrong, what needs to change, and what's no longer worth saving. He begins to see that chaos was never meant to break him. It was meant to clear the path for who he was meant to become. The world fears silence because it reveals truth, but the Sigma thrives in it. Alone, he recalibrates his emotions, rebuilds his confidence, and rewires his purpose. No voices, no opinions, just him and the truth staring back. That's where transformation happens. It's not in the noise of motivation or the chaos of reaction. It's in the still, relentless focus that silence brings. Over time, his energy shifts. The desperation fades. The confusion quiets. What once felt like destruction now feels like direction. The silence that once hurt begins to heal. And when he finally steps back into the world, he's different. Calmer, colder, sharper. The world sees a man who looks unchanged, but everything inside him has evolved. His silence turned his chaos into wisdom. That's the Sigma's hidden strength. He doesn't fight storms. He absorbs them. He lets silence rebuild what emotion tried to destroy. And in doing so, he becomes untouchable. Because the man who can sit alone in stillness, with no noise, no validation, no distraction, is the one who's truly free. Chaos tests everyone, but silence, that's where the Sigma wins. Every time the world tries to break him with noise, he rebuilds himself in quiet, stronger, clearer, and more dangerous than before. They turn rejection into redirection, not resentment. Rejection doesn't humiliate the Sigma male, it realigns him. What most people take personally, he takes strategically. Every closed door, every silent goodbye, every missed opportunity, he reads it like a signpost pointing towards something sharper, stronger, and more aligned with who he's becoming. Where others see failure, he sees feedback. Where most ask, "Why me?" he asks, "What's next?" That mindset turns rejection into one of his greatest teachers. He's learned that not everyone who walks away is a loss. Some are protection. Not every opportunity that slips through his fingers was meant to be held. The Sigma understands that life removes what no longer fits his evolution, even if it hurts in the moment. So instead of chasing what left, he studies why it had to. He replays the situation not to dwell, but to dissect it. What did this rejection free me from? What truth was hidden behind it? That kind of awareness changes everything. It removes bitterness and replaces it with purpose. He no longer wastes energy proving his worth to people who couldn't recognize it. Instead, he reinvests that energy into himself, his craft, his vision, his next chapter. Every no becomes motivation. Every loss becomes momentum. He stops running after acceptance and starts walking toward alignment. What's dangerous about this mindset is how calm it makes him. While others crumble under rejection, he becomes quieter, more deliberate, more focused. The Sigma doesn't burn bridges. He just outgrows them. His silence after rejection isn't weakness, it's redirection in motion. And by the time the world realizes it, he's already 5 steps ahead, building what rejection tried to deny him. That's why you can't break him with disappointment. He's immune to it. Because he's seen how every loss, every ending, secretly guided him towards something better. He no longer sees rejection as failure. He sees it as filtration. It weeds out the wrong people, the wrong paths, and the wrong timing, leaving only what's meant for him. That's the Sigma advantage. While others resent the door that closed, he's already walking through a better one. Rejection doesn't define his value, it refines his direction. They shed attachments that once defined them, finding power in detachment. There comes a point when the Sigma male stops clinging to people, to outcomes, to identities he's outgrown. He realizes that most of what once defined him was never truly him. It was survival. The need to be understood, the need to belong, the need to prove something. But growth demands release, and he learns that real strength isn't in holding on, it's in letting go. Detachment doesn't make him cold. It makes him clear. He starts to see how attachments, to approval, to relationships, to comfort, kept him stuck in cycles that no longer served his evolution. So he begins to strip them away, not with anger, but with understanding. Every tie he cuts brings him closer to himself. Every attachment he releases frees up energy he can now use to build, to create, to be. It's a quiet process. No dramatic exits, no emotional declarations. Just distance, reflection, peace. He learns to stop forcing connections that drain him and to stop chasing outcomes that distract him. Where he once looked for belonging, he now finds purpose. Where he once sought comfort, he now chooses clarity. His detachment becomes his discipline. And here's the paradox. The moment he lets go, everything starts flowing toward him. The opportunities, the calm, the respect. Because detachment doesn't mean he stops caring. It means he stops depending. He no longer needs things to work out a certain way to feel whole. That inner independence becomes magnetic. People can feel it. They sense he's no longer tied to validation, no longer trapped by fear. He moves like someone who could walk away from anything and still be at peace. What detachment gives him isn't isolation, it's control. Emotional control. The ability to stay centered no matter what life removes. He no longer measures success by what he holds, but by what he can release without losing himself. That's why the Sigma becomes unshakable. Because the man who can lose everything and remain grounded is the one who owns himself completely. His detachment isn't coldness, it's mastery. And once he learns to live without attachments, he becomes something the world can't manipulate. Free, focused, and fully alive. They rebuild purpose from solitude, not approval. When everything falls apart, most people search for someone to tell them what to do next. A friend, a mentor, the crowd. But the Sigma male? He goes silent. He disappears into solitude because he knows that clarity doesn't come from noise. It comes from stillness. The world calls it isolation. He calls it reconstruction. Because when no one's watching, when the applause fades and the validation stops, that's when his real purpose begins to form. In solitude, he strips his life down to essentials. No distractions, no comparisons, no pressure to perform, just him and the truth. He reflects on everything, what drives him, what drains him, what he's been pretending to want. There's no one left to impress, so honesty becomes easy. He starts building again, not for attention, but for alignment. Every new decision comes from within, not from the expectations of others. That's the power of solitude. It forces self-ownership. It makes him realize how much of his old life was built around approval, doing what others expected, saying what they wanted to hear, living by invisible rules. Now he answers to no one but himself, and that shift, from external validation to internal purpose, transforms everything. He stops chasing rewards and starts chasing meaning. He learns that purpose isn't something you find, it's something you build quietly, one disciplined choice at a time. Alone, he plans, trains, studies, and sharpens himself. No one claps, no one notices, but that's exactly what makes it powerful. Because when your motivation no longer depends on an audience, your growth becomes unstoppable. People mistake his solitude for loneliness, but they couldn't be more wrong. He's not avoiding the world. He's rebuilding his foundation so deeply that nothing external can shake it again. When he finally returns, his presence feels different. Quieter, more certain, more grounded. The kind of purpose that doesn't need to shout to be felt. And that's the secret. Solitude doesn't break him, it builds him. Approval fades, but purpose lasts. The Sigma male doesn't need recognition to stay consistent. His solitude is his source. Because once a man learns to build from silence, he'll never depend on noise again. They realize emotional control is their ultimate form of strength. The moment a Sigma male stops being controlled by emotion, everything shifts. Anger, fear, rejection. They no longer dictate his moves. He feels them, yes, but he doesn't feed them. He's learned that emotions are signals, not commands. That lesson doesn't come easily. It's forged through pain, betrayal, and disappointment. But once he masters it, his entire energy changes. He no longer reacts impulsively, he responds strategically. That's the Sigma advantage, composure in chaos. While others explode, he observes. While people argue to be right, he studies the pattern beneath the noise. That calm presence confuses manipulators and intimidates the emotional. Because you can't control someone who controls himself. You can't throw him off, when he's already balanced. Emotional control doesn't make him robotic. It makes him precise. He still feels deeply, but he channels that emotion into momentum. Instead of shouting when he's angry, he works. Instead of overthinking when he's anxious, he plans. His emotions fuel him, not rule him. That's why his progress looks effortless. It's not that he doesn't struggle. It's that he's disciplined enough to move through the storm without losing direction. This kind of control gives him something rare: peace under pressure. Whether it's conflict, loss, or temptation, he doesn't let the situation decide his state of mind. He decides it himself. And that self-commandedness makes him magnetic. People can sense it. The steadiness, the unbothered energy, the quiet certainty that nothing external can shake his core. But here's the deeper truth. Emotional control isn't about suppression. It's about mastery. He doesn't deny what he feels. He decodes it. He knows that unchecked emotion clouds perception, and perception shapes destiny. So he keeps his emotions in his hands, not in the hands of others. That's why every time life tests him, he gets stronger. Because the man who can control himself can control any outcome. Emotional control becomes his armor, his weapon, and his peace, all in one. And once he learns that power doesn't come from dominance, but from discipline, the Sigma male becomes something rare, unshakable, unreadable, and truly unstoppable. They come back sharper, calmer, and completely immune to manipulation. When the Sigma male returns after being broken down, he isn't the same man. He's quieter, sharper, and far more dangerous. Not because he's bitter, but because he's awake. Every loss stripped away illusions, every betrayal taught him patterns, and every moment of silence rebuilt his instincts. Now, nothing gets past him. Manipulation, flattery, guilt. The tricks that once worked don't even register anymore. He's evolved beyond emotional control. People notice the shift immediately. The man who once over-explained now just observes. The one who used to absorb everyone's energy now filters it like glass. His calm becomes unsettling, not passive but precise. You can feel it when he walks into a room. He doesn't react to provocation, doesn't chase validation, doesn't flinch when others try to test him. He simply sees through everything. That kind of awareness is power. Not loud, not aggressive, but absolute. His immunity to manipulation didn't come from reading books or taking advice. It came from being played and learning. Every emotional wound taught him something about intention. Every fake friendship revealed a hidden agenda. Now, he moves with a kind of intuitive intelligence that can't be taught, only earned. He can sense lies by tone, insecurity by posture, and control by silence. That's what makes him unpredictable. Because you can't manipulate someone who no longer needs approval or attention. His calmness isn't indifference. It's dominance through composure. The more others try to provoke emotion, the more detached he becomes. His boundaries are no longer defensive, they're strategic. He doesn't argue, he observes. He doesn't expose people, he lets them expose themselves. And in that stillness, every manipulator realizes the same thing. They can't play a game with someone who's already seen the board. When the Sigma comes back, he doesn't return to prove anything. He returns because he's rebuilt himself so deeply that no external force can shake him again. Pain taught him patience. Solitude taught him focus. Experience taught him discernment. Now, his silence commands respect. His peace radiates strength, and his detachment becomes his shield. He's not heartless, just untouchable. Because once a man learns to rise without reacting, the world loses its power to control him. Every time life tries to break a Sigma male, it ends up building something stronger, something calmer, colder, and far more focused. He doesn't rise for attention, he rises because evolution demands it. Every loss refines him. Every silence strengthens him. And by the time the world notices his comeback, he's already 10 steps ahead, unreadable, unshakable, and unstoppable. That's the truth most people miss. Strength isn't built through winning, it's built through rebuilding. The Sigma male doesn't avoid pain, he transforms it into precision. That's why no matter how many times he's knocked down, he always returns sharper, wiser, and immune to the same mistakes that once broke him. If this resonated with you, if you've ever rebuilt yourself in silence, if you've ever chosen growth over revenge, you already understand what true power feels like. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to Ultra Wise, where we uncover the psychology and transformation behind rare minds like yours. And if you've watched until the end, comment "Calm Power" below, so I'll know you're one of the few who understands that real strength doesn't shout, it silently evolves.